everyone and welcome to the Cisco TechCast. I'm Ben from the Marketing and Communications team, and today we are diving into the world of real-time operating systems, customer support, and what it really takes to help customers working with high-assurance embedded systems. Joining me is Daniel, who's been at the core of Cisco's customer support and training efforts. So, welcome Daniel.
Hi everyone, so I'm Daniel Dos Santos. I'm already for 6 years at Cisco. This year will be my 7th year actually. And I'm taking care of the support and the training department. So by us, the whole engineering team is getting involved. So it's also good for our customers because when they actually submit the request and support, they have direct contact with our engineers, including myself. So I'm really happy to be today part of this TechCast and to answer some questions.
Great, you have been with Cisco for quite some time. Could you tell us a bit about your journey into your support role?
I'm actually more into electronics, so I have a degree actually in microelectronics, and I'm a bit more close to the hardware. And I was actually looking for a new challenge and found really a job offer at Cisco looking for a support and training manager. So in the past, I already had, I would say, the same kind of profile, managing also support teams and providing training. So I have already quite a lot of experience in speaking in front of customers, providing trainings, and also dealing with support issues and managing them to get the right answer, and also solving issues with the help of the team. So that being said, I actually have this hardware electronic background, so which is really helpful as our PikeOS, our product is an hypervisor type 1, which is directly running in the hardware. So it's good to understand how the hardware works, and then to see how PikeOS will use those resources in a real-time environment. So I would say it's quite good for me, or interesting also to see both sides. So the hardware part and also, of course, the operating system which comes on top.
Nice, very interesting. So Cisco works across various industries like aerospace, automotive, and other high-tech sectors. What kind of customers are you typically supporting on a day-to-day basis?
People contacting us, I would say, I'm speaking about the support side, of course. They are engineers that are working really closely with their platform, with hardware, and using PikeOS and also the tools through Codeo. So I would say we in support we directly have contact with those kind of people on the customer side, daily working on the project. So they contact support, and this is usually engineers, so software engineers, application engineers, also architects, so people actually building the operating system, so deciding actually how many partitions and so on, and how resources will be shared among different partitions. Of course, the range is quite large, so it comes from installation issues, so really the start, when someone starts with the product and wants to install them, and up to really more technical issues, or even consulting, so people that are actually starting or will start a project, so they might have some questions, and this is more consulting. Of course, we try to answer, but if it gets a bit more into the consulting, then the customer will be actually we get involved with sales or our software architect that might help also on that aspect. So FIAs are also playing a role, I would say, in the first row as a support, because they might get also some questions or some issues reported. So they have also the role of reporting them into the tool and then answering them or asking for help. So this is usually also part. So the FIAs, they're also sometimes involved in some issues. and also some IT people, because we have to see also how products are being installed in an environment at the customer. And most of the cases, actually, it's the IT department installing the PikeOS and Codeo. So yeah, we have also these kind of profiles also with when it comes to installation issues.
Since you have mentioned Codeo, what makes Codeo such a central tool for developers working with our platforms?
Yeah, Codeo is actually our main tool. And despite the fact that you can also do most, I would say everything through command line, Codeo is IDE. So it's a powerful tool for our customers to have everything at one place. So you can, for the integrator, for the architect, which is building the operating system, up to the engineers developing the applications. So everything is centralized in this Codeo and convenient, I would say, for everyone. And it's the main tool, providing additional tools as monitoring, tracing, and debugging. So all of this is concentrated in this IDE, which is our Codeo.
The Codeo IDE is, by the way, part of our Elenos embedded Linux, which can be downloaded as a test version at cisco.com/getelenos. But coming back to support, so when a customer gets PikeOS or Elenos, what kind of support do they receive out of the box?
So when someone buys a product, it gets automatically a standard support contract assigned to that product. So it means that for any, I would say, questions that are related to the product or the configuration, this is all covered by or looking for, of course, a bug or something like that, which is product related. So this is all covered by this standard support contract. So when we get a request, the first thing we do is that we look at the request. If it's something which is product related, then and configuration related, then we help our customers. Or if a customer reports already a kind of point that looks like to be a bug, then of course we need to take the time to reproduce this. And this is also being handled by this customer contract, standard contract. And in this phase, of course, when a request comes in, you need to identify first what it is about. Is this something more configuration? Is this more consulting? Is it project related? Because of course, we might have already some projects going on with someone. So there's a identification phase from where this comes from. And then we analyze the issue, and this will be redirected to the right person. So if someone is already following a project, so it will be redirected to that specific person. If this is a more general configuration issue, this is then handled by the component owners of the specific part of our PikeOS or Elenos or Codeo. And then on top of that, of the standard support, you have other support contracts that can be added. So you have a long-term support contract aside with the certification one. And this comes with some hours of support additionally. So this could be interesting when, of course, you might think that in the following, after starting the project or after the delivery of the product or the BSP that might have been developed by ourselves, customer might want to have more in-depth hours or more hours that could be used by us to work more in close or more close to the project. So usually this is packages of 50 or 100 hours. And when the customer has a long support contract with us, this might be really interesting because if something comes along, then we can dedicate time which has been assigned to these contracts.
Okay, and how does the support look like when more complex projects with the need of certification come into play?
Yeah, so whenever there is some certification involved, and then we deliver documentation, artifacts, and so on in terms of certification, there is also things that are linked to the support and are managed by our certification team. So as soon as there's some corrections, the customers, they will be informed, and then they actually can download any kind of update or rectifications or fixes in regards of their certification kit that have been provided with. So this is really we're speaking about some customers that really have, on top of the regular products, they have been delivered with a certification kit. And of course, they get also the support on that to get up to date in terms of safety and security.
Most of your support work likely happens remotely or through online tools, but there are situations where direct on-site support also becomes necessary, right?
In regards of on-site solving issues, this is usually something which is more done by an engineer which is following a project. So let's imagine that the customer is working with us closely and we are delivering to them maybe a customized BSP, and then there are some visits being done by an engineer which is working closely to this BSP on site with the customer, and some issues can be discussed and solved directly on the spot when the engineer is there. So this is a bit more like another kind of support, more related to the delivery, to the project itself. Where actually some questions and issues can be directly solved on site.
At the beginning, we already talked about PikeOS, which is our flagship product with Type 1 hypervisor. What are some unique challenges or advantages you see when supporting PikeOS?
Well, the first thing is, as I told at the beginning, it's running directly in the hardware. So if you compare that with a hypervisor type 2, let's say VMware, it's one of them, which is running on top of another operating system. So there's a kind of abstraction of the hardware. So you don't really care in that aspect. So you just, let's say, take a Windows, you run VMware, and then you run on top of that a Linux. Okay, you need to take care about a few things, but you don't need really to know exactly how you would manage memories and so on. In comparison with PikeOS, this is running directly on the hardware. You need to understand the hardware first also. So you need to have a knowledge about how much memory, the interface, what is available. And then on top of that, PikeOS comes with some drivers. Those drivers will allow you to use some devices on that hardware. And you might want, of course, to optimize the usage of the memory of the board. So working with PikeOS makes things, I would say, a bit more interesting for someone who is more close to the hardware, because there is this aspect which you don't see usually, I would say, in a hypervisor type 2. Of course, when someone buys a product, we have different products. We have, of course, PikeOS and we have LinOS. And those products are also linked to other components. So if I take PikeOS, you have our so-called personalities. So this means that on top of PikeOS, you can run different kinds of partitions. And inside of those partitions, you can have different kinds of personalities or flavors with the API. So you have, for example, the POSIX, you have the iRank, and then you have also the possibility to run the para-virtualized Linux, which is usually the LinOS, our other product, so directly on top of PikeOS. You have also the hardware virtualization, so which allows you to run most unmodified operating system on top of PikeOS. So you have those components and then come on top. And of course, when someone purchases these components, they will also get the support for them. So all of this is decided at the start when product is purchased, what kind of elements or components needs to be added to the project. And this will be actually delivered based on the license.
This has been a great deep dive into what it means to support real-time systems and complex platforms like PikeOS. Don't miss out on part 2 of this TechCast. So stay tuned and see you next time.